Okay, and so it's again my pleasure to see you today.
Good afternoon.
How are you? It's always a pleasure. So, what's the topic today?
Today we discussed that we're gonna talk about special kind of diet. It's not even a diet. It's like pluses and minuses. Probably we will talk mostly about pluses, benefits of Mediterranean food. And like you sent me pictures and like it looked very attractive, but I have tons of questions about it, by the way. And why it's so healthy, because we have different diets, different options. People saying like, oh, if you eat fruits and vegetables, that's more than enough. But according to what I read, it's not more than enough. Like, and meat is important, and fish is important. You have even theory, I know, like the size of the fish, like I remember.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
So like, but specifically you mentioned to me Mediterranean food. Why you are specifically focused on that type of food?
Now that's because, first of all, Mediterranean food is probably mostly researched, and there's some studies, multiple actually studies that showed benefits of Mediterranean food, and that's why we are.
So what benefits? I will play devil advocate, but you talk about benefits. I will.
No, as per my knowledge, the mostly what they study is the cardiovascular benefits, and
for heart, you mean for?
Yeah, the cardiovascular means not only heart but vessels and the rest. So basically, if vessels are involved in some kind of disease, obviously that everything, the rest of the body will suffer, brain, muscles, everything, because it's going to be deprived of supply. And that's pretty straightforward. Okay.
So what do we have here? Is it some example of Mediterranean food? Like basically it's a fruits and meat and olive oil. Everybody knows that it's healthy.
More or less, but basically what I would say is that's the food what God gives us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, what God gives us. God doesn't give us the sausages or
okay. Hot dogs.
Yeah, or hot dogs. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So Mediterranean, my understanding is.
But I don't see here potatoes, for example. I don't see it at all. For example.
Well, potatoes. I don't think that potatoes per se is given us by God, because in order to eat potatoes, you need to boil it or just fry it, whatever it is. So it's something you need to cook before you can eat it.
It's a very popular food among many communities, including Russian-speaking communities.
No, that's understandable because potatoes is mostly carbohydrates, as you know, and that's the foods that influence mood. And basically, I think we talked about that before. So the most popular foods that they buy in groceries is mood modified.
Yes, correct.
Mood modified. That's why, and that's pretty much explain the benefits. So basically, there's no not a lot of simple carbohydrates, and even though the fruits contain carbohydrates, the level of carbohydrates is buffered by the pulp. So basically what I'm driving at is, if you eat an apple or you eat an orange,
okay,
with a lot of carbohydrates in it, it's not that bad because the level of sugar is stabilized by pulp.
Okay.
But if you get the same orange and put it in a juicer and drink the juice, it's a totally different story.
It's good or bad?
Well, you decide yourself, because what happens is that as soon as there is no pulp, then as soon as somebody drinks this juice, what happens is that these carbohydrates are absorbed very fast. So the blood sugar level goes up very fast. It's not what we designed for. So what happens is that needs to react on this, and the react is produce more insulin. But because the shift is too fast, our body produces too much insulin, that brings the level of our sugar blood level too down. And when somebody has low blood sugar, you know what happens? He wants carbohydrates again and again and again.
Talking about diabetes.
Not necessarily. If somebody wants to lose weight, why would he drink orange juice? And I worked many years in the hospital, so they almost always keep orange juice in the fridge. You know why? Because if somebody has too low blood sugar, that's what they give.
Okay.
So,
But we're talking about like orange juice from like store, or we're talking about freshly squeezed juice. What are we talking
doesn't really matter.
Doesn't matter?
Doesn't matter because even if you freshly squeeze, you remove the pulp.
Still.
Yeah, see, as soon as you interfere with Mother Nature, you run into trouble because Mother Nature wants it to be with pulp. It doesn't want to be without pulp.
Okay, now I wanted to talk about olive oil, but why corn? Why not corn oil? Why not any other oil, but specifically olive oil? Why?
Why olive oil? Because it's pretty fairly balanced, and it doesn't contain that much omega-6 omega fatty acids, which is, you know, the beneficial is omega-3. Okay, so the fats then contain more 6, which are pro-inflammatory. Omega-3 fatty acids are anti-inflammatory, and omega-6 are pro-inflammatory. So if you want to have healthy life, obviously you don't want to have inflammation, right? It doesn't make any sense. You want to suppress inflammation, and calm down your body. That's what you want to do. So you want more omega-3 fatty acids and not omega-6.
But what is wrong with corn oil or from seeds? You know, like why it should be specific? Again, what is wrong with other oil? First of all, it's more expensive, as you know. Olive oil.
But that's basically what I'm saying. That Mediterranean food is anti-inflammatory, so it has to have oils that contain more omega-3 fatty acids, not omega-6 fatty acids. And as you can see, it's olive oil and fish. You know that by the way, in Mediterranean food, they don't have big fish over there. So basically,
yeah, so pictures you send me, it's everywhere is a small fish.
Small fish. So basically, that's what I'm talking about. And obviously, meats. Meats. It's a kind of interesting thing because you know, obviously there is a question. Okay, so who lives on the beach? They obviously have plenty of fish, they get omega-3 fatty acids, right?
Okay.
But who is not? Who lives inside the
city?
Inside the city, or you just forget about city. Who lives in the city? You can get any fish you want, but who lived thousands of years not close to the beach, far away from the beach, where they were getting omega-3 fatty acids?
Where?
And the answer is very simple: from meats. So why we now say that it's mostly fish and not meat? It's very simple because, I don't know, you were born in a city or in a village?
City.
In the city. So you have no knowledge how they feed cows, no?
No, probably I know herbs, I don't know.
Right. So in Mother Nature, cows were not fed with corn, right?
Yeah.
So they're fed they go to the pasture, right?
Yes.
That's where they were getting their food. And in this case, so pasture-fed, pasture-raised cows, they have more omega-3 fatty acids in their meats and not omega-6. But if the same cow is fed by corn, then there is a problem because cow is not designed to be fed with the corn. So instead, be it the meats and fat, and they contain more omega-6 fatty acids and not omega-3. So basically, talking about Mediterranean food is not that simple because there are several caveats. What quality of meats, what quality of vegetables, and it is extremely important because of the soil exhaustion. So if those foods were raised on exhausted soil, forget it. How is this going to get any nutrients?
And I see you have also mushrooms here. It's also part of Mediterranean food, or it's just like to make it beautiful?
To be honest with you, I don't know, but I like mushrooms very much.
So it just
mushrooms, yeah, I can feel.
It's also natural. To be honest.
That's try to not to overcook them. That's the whole most important thing. And look at those beautiful salad. You know, I don't know what else needs to be on the table.
Yeah, do not start now, after the program, okay? What about honey? I know that honey is I know it's not part of Mediterranean, but like everywhere I read that honey is so healthy, everybody should eat honey as much as possible because it's natural, it's healthy, it improves your immunity. Is it true or it's just legend?
Well, to be honest with you, I don't know. The only thing I know is that if you eat honey only, you will run into trouble for sure. Okay, that's the thing is. Of course, in my understanding, honey is probably the healthiest way to get carbohydrates. However, everything has to be in moderation.
No, nobody's talking eating like tons of it, but like typical reaction. Oh, I have a cold. Okay, you have to drink tea with honey. That's like number one recommendation all the time.
If you have cold once in 2 years, that's okay with me. So you will get your honey once a year or twice a year, or I don't think once again. You know, everything is good in moderation, but it cannot be your staple. And if you
this could be Mediterranean food. Could be on a regular basis every
who
day.
can say anything against cucumbers and tomatoes? I don't think anybody can say anything, right?
Every day?
Yeah, not every day, but at least whenever you like.
Okay.
You know, and I don't think that's bad, and I don't think that can say that it's a lot of carbohydrates in it or something.
Meat could be also often.
Well, if it contains omega-3 fatty acids, if it's raw, why not?
How can raw? How many people eat raw meat? Come on.
Well, let me tell you something. There is a very, very popular French dish. It's called beef tartare.
Okay.
Beef tartare is perfectly raw.
I know, like majority of people I know, and I do not see them eating for the raw meat. That's
Hold on. Steak, right?
Okay.
If you eat real French steak, it's almost raw inside. Yeah, it is. It is. I remember this my first encounter with a steak, and we went to the restaurant. I just came to the United States. I had no knowledge about French food, and we went to the restaurant. As they gave a steak, when they cut it, it was bleeding from one side. So I called the waiter and said, "What food did you give me?" And he said, "What's wrong with this? It's raw inside." And the guy said, "So what?" And at that time, I didn't know that actually raw food, raw meat inside is the best.
okay.
Okay.
Some people will be surprised.
Okay. Let me give you another example, which I don't think anybody can argue. In UK, they did a study and they compared two groups of women. One of them ate steak well done, and another one ate steak rare.
Okay.
So which group do you think was the the lowest prevalence of breast cancer?
Probably when it's not well done.
Otherwise I wouldn't talk about that.
It's not well done, obviously.
See, look, you know,
I'm never saying anywhere in a restaurant anybody asks me like well done, medium, like rare. I always say like rare or medium. I never said well done. I know it's like when it's cooked too much, it's not so good.
The science behind it is very simple. As you know, that meat contains proteins, one of the most important components, proteins, right? Proteins are they have certain structure. It's like a globe, okay, and they have amino acids, and they have the threads that are intervened. You know, this kind of like a ball. So the important thing here is this. Protein cannot be digested as is. It needs to be cut in these certain pieces that can be digested. This is a very simple idea. So in order to do that, our body has its enzymes that attack that protein and cut it in very specific places to make sure that this protein can be digested, right?
Okay.
You follow me, right? So everything is okay when the meat is raw, so the protein maintains its natural structure. But as soon as we raise the temperature, the same protein becomes denaturated. So the structure is going to be different. Yes, it's basically the same amino acids, but the 3D structures is changed because of the deterioration. So when our enzyme attack the same protein, but which is denaturated, the digestive enzymes do not find the same places where they can attach, and they start cutting it in the wrong places.
Don't do well done. You see, you hear it? Do not order well done meat, steaks, etc.
No,
It's well done in terms of like how it looks, but it's not well done for your stomach and health.
that's not that simple because it depends on the digestive system of the person who is digesting it. You know, who does, I'm talking only about the person who has healthy digestive system. But what if he is not? You know, that's a very important thing because if he doesn't have healthy digestive system, it really doesn't matter what food he eats. He's going to go through anyway. But once again, as soon as we heat it, the 3D structure changes. So our digestive enzymes cannot attack it, cannot cut it in the right places.
But I also noticed here, there is no sweet stuff. I mean, of course there is some kind of sugar and fruits and vegetables too, but like there is nothing like, no sweets here. I mean.
No, because this is the most, I think carbohydrates are the main thing. And as I think we talked about last time, right? Was the sweeteners.
Sweeteners, yes. But I'm not talking about sweeteners, I'm talking about...
No, I'm just talking about the carbohydrates in general. So there's a lot of problems. Sweeteners, right? Carbohydrates in milk.
Yeah, I'm not talking about, again, artificial sweetener. I'm talking about like sweets, you know,
milk
like
is milk,
from bakery, etc.
Milk is perfectly natural, right?
Okay.
But still, what happens is that we, with age, we lose our ability to digest lactose. So that's the carbohydrate in our milk, right? So what happens is it's not digested, creates a bacterial overgrowth, etc., so creates a problem. High fructose, high corn fructose syrup, the same thing. They're not that good in digesting fructose, even though it's perfectly natural, but still, you know, that creates a problem because as soon as it's not digested, it creates the food. It becomes a food for bad bacteria, and that's what creates a problem. And it's a very important thing because a very simple thing. What we might think is what is natural is good, in fact, is not. And snake's venom is perfectly natural too, but it can kill.
That's also true. One more thing, we talked about olive oil, but what about olives themselves? Some people say they're very, very healthy. Some people say it's just again another myth. So how do you feel about olives?
I will just tell you my opinion about it. My opinion is very simple. As soon as it's, don't eat anything from the can. So as soon as it's canned, you know, it's a lot of salt in it, in my understanding, a lot of salt, a lot of sometimes food additives.
But natural is fine. If you buy in a store, just raw olives is fine.
Well, I don't know how to, I don't have that much experience with raw olives and with not just canned. But for me, canned olives are no good.
Why?
Why? Because it's too much salt, preservatives, everything else. You know, that I don't trust those people. As soon as in the can, you know, it's processed, so who knows what exactly in this? Are
you saying any processed food, any canned food is bad, or it's just, you know, like your perception, you don't trust what is inside?
My perception is very simple. As soon as it's canned, so they have to modify it. Because fresh foods are going to get spoiled very soon. And you know that.
Of course.
You know, when you get the strawberry or raspberry from the just naturally raised, it's not going to last long. It's going to get spoiled very quickly.
Yes.
You know, very quickly. And let me give you another example. See, for example, an apple.
Okay.
You remember when you were a kid?
Okay.
You got an apple, you cut it, and what happens to the apple? It becomes dark brown, right?
Okay, yes.
But what about now? Could you go to the superstore, cut the same apple, and what happens with the colors? Nothing will happen.
Because they use a lot of chemicals and stuff like that.
This is very simple, by the way. You know why? Because of the iron content. Why apple changes its color? Because of high iron content. So if it's raised on a good soil, it will change the color. But if it raised, we have, it's an exhausted soil. There is not that much iron in it. And that's the reason why we have this issue. When you cut an apple, it's not going to get dark how it's supposed to be.
I wanted to move to one topic that was touched in this link that you sent me, a relationship between eating Mediterranean food and Alzheimer's disease. You know that supposedly there was a study that people who eat more Mediterranean food, they're like less likely to get Alzheimer's disease, and people who ignore it, like eating that typical American canned food or something like this, processed food, they're more likely to become.
That's a pretty easy question. The reason for that is because obviously that in order to function properly, our brain needs nutrients.
Okay.
So let's put it this way. Who eats canned foods? Will he or she have enough nutrients? Probably not. Because of obviously who eats canned food, will be deprived on basic nutrients. That's a very well-known thing. Whom we suspect the most, who is vitamin deficient, who eats canned food? That's the first one.
Often low-income people, often.
I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure about low-income people, because if somebody has a low income, it doesn't mean that he has to pick up canned food. That's a matter of preference, I think.
So some people specifically focus on canned food because they like it, or why?
Well, I don't have an answer for this, but in my understanding, who is eating food, canned food, who is probably cannot assess the situation, who doesn't understand that, that's maybe not that good. And in the United States, with its social security benefits and food stamps, I cannot imagine a person who has to eat canned foods.
No, I'm not saying who has to eat, but like...
Who has to eat canned foods in the United States? How much do they pay in food stamps? I think more than $100 a month, right?
Per person is close to 200 per person.
200
per person.
Per person. So $200 a month. Why does this person need to eat canned food? I can't even imagine that. More likely, that's the person who doesn't want to eat something else, who prefers to stay at home, who prefers not to go
less
outside.
mobility.
Less mobility, yeah. And see, Mother Nature requires us to get sunlight to get vitamin D, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the question is, why would they do this? It's kind of weird, and my understanding is because of a very simple thing: who loses mobility, Mother Nature wants this person to die, because if he loses mobility, he cannot walk and get sunlight, right? Otherwise, why?
Yeah, better to get sunlight, and fresh air is always healthy.
Yeah, I understand, but what I'm saying, I was just puzzled why you need a sunlight. Why Mother Nature requires us to have sunlight in order to get vitamin D. And that's probably the answer. Who loses mobility can get sunlight, that's it.
That's what you just mentioned, that again, talking about Mother Nature, like our predecessors, all these people who eat like fresh fruits, fresh vegetables, fresh meat, you're talking about raw meat, and like sunlight and fresh air, it's obviously that it's called healthy lifestyle, like so.
Yeah, and especially, let me point out another very important thing about it. So our predecessors, when they have foods, they probably don't have all the variety of food at the same time.
Correct.
Right? So if they get a cow or they get a hog, they have meats and they don't bother with tomatoes and cucumbers, right? They're not going to go and get some tomatoes and cucumbers and eat it with a hog. No, it doesn't make any sense. And it's extremely important in terms of digestion, and here's why. Supposedly, you have a piece of meat, right?
Okay.
So God bless you, you eat it, right?
Okay.
And you enjoy it, this meat goes into your stomach, and your body senses it as a protein, right? So our body very smart, so it produces protein, the enzymes that digest protein, right?
Okay.
And everything looks good, because there is no problem with that. But what if The same meat, the best meat, for example, lamb, right?
Okay.
Somebody eats pilaf, so it meats with rice.
Okay.
Right? Very common, very popular stuff. Right?
Very popular, especially
Very popular.
for people who came from Central Asia, for
Right.
example.
So what happens is this.
Very popular.
So our body senses not only protein but carbohydrates too. And it produces the digestive enzymes. Not only that it's supposed to produce to digest protein, but also that needs to digest carbohydrates, right?
So you're saying it's not a good idea?
No, let's just use common sense. So instead of one enzyme, it will produce two, right? So what happens to the digest?
But if you eat also with vegetables.
No, hold on. Just they are going to dilute each other because it's two of them, right? It will dilute each other, and the effectiveness will be cut down in half. You know, it's going to be half of the effectiveness. So it will create a problem. It's like drinking whiskey with a beer. Anybody can get this idea.
That's not a good idea.
It's not a good idea to combine whiskey and beer. What will happen? Disaster will happen, right? It's the same thing, I'm telling you. I'm not overestimating, I'm not joking in this case. Or who can think of combining two caffeine-containing products like coffee and tea?
Also.
What will happen? Nothing good will happen. You can't even now imagine. I cannot imagine yourself or you drinking tea and coffee. No, it doesn't make any sense. You will drink it separate.
Of course.
So the same thing is here. So the question is that if we admit that eating separate foods is better, so why would we combine meats with rice?
So you're saying meat should be combined with vegetables and no rice whatsoever, or a different time?
No, that's a common sense. What I'm saying is very simple. Just use your common sense. If you eat meat, if you want it to be digested, why should you dilute the protein digesting enzymes with carbohydrate digestion? Doesn't make any sense. It's dilution. So if you want it, and especially if somebody has a problem with digestion, it's already weak digestive system.
So if someone who is watching us right now loves this specifically, especially again, people from Uzbekistan, for example, I believe they eat it like almost daily, and also drink wine with it. You know, it's basically talking about wine. Is it healthy? Not healthy? If it's a good wine and a little bit in moderation. So.
Well, you know.
But you're saying even like pilaf is not good, you know.
Listen, I'm just alcohol free for many years.
Any alcohol.
Any alcohol. No champagne, even for a New Year.
But what about wine? It's a legend again. People living in Armenia, for example, in mountains, if they drink wine in moderation, that's healthy for your blood vessels, your heart, etc., etc. That's the story.
Let me tell you a very well-known fact. So as soon as they declared that wine is good for your health, wine sales skyrocketed. Skyrocketed. You know, and they came up with resveratrol, and they are saying that now it's not actually in the grapes, it's in the some other part of the grapes. And
we're not talking about drinking like 3 bottles a day. We're talking about like half a glass a day. Then
I'm not familiar with the concept of so-called safe dose of poison. Okay, so basically I'm trying it. I don't believe in any safety in poisoning. If this is a poison, it's a poison. You know, and look, let me tell you something, that alcohol kills. And this is for sure because, you know, the kills liver, you know about that, right? You don't need to be a doctor to know about that, it kills liver. You know, it affects your brain, affects everything. So how can we declare that even drinking a small amount, so small amount is good, and a little bit bigger amount is bad? How could it be?
But do you know that, like, people know that it's a fact that some people, especially who live in the mountains, for example, of Armenia, they consume some moderate amounts of wine. And of course it's a fresh air, and of course it's a fresh food and everything
Okay.
fresh, but still they live longer, 100 years or more.
Let me ask you this.
Mhm.
Supposedly there is a shepherd who lives in Armenia,
Okay.
and he takes care of the of lamb.
Yeah.
So he goes to the mountain.
Correct.
Where is he getting wine?
I don't know.
I don't know either. So I think it's a little bit. I think it's more as a legend than the real truth, because a shepherd who goes to the mountains to feed his sheep, for a long time, where is he getting it from? I don't think he's able to.
I don't know, maybe
I
he's
don't
thinking this
think.
himself.
I don't think. And let me tell you something, that you can create a legend from everything. Example. If you just Google about people who live, who live a lot of very long life, you can find a guy, one of the guys, very famous. He lived about 100 years, and he lived in Cuba. So that guy drank a lot of alcohol. He smoked cigars.
Cuban cigar.
Yeah, Cuban cigars. He did whatever he wanted. And the first time he married when he was around 90, and the woman was 40.
It's probably all not. It's a fairy tale.
No, I don't think it's a fairy tale, but what I'm driving at, that there is exceptions everywhere. So if somebody drinks wine and lives a long life, it doesn't mean that it fits everybody.
Yeah, I knew one lady, I visited one lady who celebrated her 116th birthday. Everybody celebrated, and then there's, what is your favorite food? Everybody expected to say some fruit or vegetable. She said, I like bacon, she said.
Yeah, that's bacon.
What?
By the way, bacon is not that bad as you might think. But what I'm driving at is that if somebody can do it, it doesn't mean that you can do it. Somebody can dance, or somebody can go to space. I can't do that. That's because I'm not designed for this. That's not my thing.
Okay, so let's summarize it by the end. So basically you're saying Mediterranean food, natural food, fruits, vegetables, olive oil, prolong your life, and it's good for your brain, and it's even preventing, not necessarily 100%, but can prevent Alzheimer's disease.
Well, let's leave the studies to the scientists, and if they're saying that it can be beneficial, can be linked to preventing of Alzheimer's, then that's fine with me. But the most powerful argument in this, I think, what I do for myself, and that's what I do. I'm alcohol-free. I'm carbohydrate. I'm gluten-free. I don't smoke. I try to just eat very minimal caffeine, very minimal dairy. What I try to do is to eat food that is minimally processed, or raw is the preferable. Okay, but once again, just what I am saying always, it's not only about food, it's about digestive system. So basically, if you suppose you have the best car in the world, right? The best car for it. But if you go and put diesel fuel in it, so probably, or a rocket fuel in it, it's not going to run, even though rocket fuel is very good, right? So they have to match each other. And if somebody doesn't have the healthy digestive system, that's a problem. Because you can eat the best food in the world, the digestive system is not working properly, forget it. Or food was grown in exhausted soil. So what do you expect? So basically what I'm driving at, that it has to be taken everything has to be taken together. Healthy digestive system, good quality of food, check your toxins, etc., etc. So basic comprehensive approach is probably the best. You can't take out, and just one thing like saying that Mediterranean food is the solution. No, it's not. It's just the piece of it.
Everything. For example, have an active lifestyle also.
Yeah, active
Helpful.
lifestyle, but I think that if you eat healthy food, you will be active. If you don't eat healthy food, I really doubt that you will be active.
And of course, you need to check with your primary physician, what you eat, how do you feel, all of your to get the advice from professional.
Yeah, enough. Just everybody has to. I mean, in my understanding, has to check his supplement, his minerals and vitamins. And it's very well known thing that just vitamin D, low vitamin D levels, low zinc levels, low selenium levels were linked to higher incidence of cancers. So it's as simple as that. Just go back to the basics. Make it simple.
So very easy. Go back to basics. Prefer Mother Nature. Eat healthy food and get advice from professionals.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure
Thank
to
you.
see you.
Thank you.
See you next time.